How's it going, everyone? Marriland here, and last time I did some stuff like get a ton of diamonds. But I did a little bit of work around the house in the meanwhile. As you saw, I started up here because, you know what? I moved I moved my creosote oil up here, but I also set up some more tanks. These are these Zycraft tanks, and they're pretty cool. They're pretty cool. They can be made out of pretty much whatever material you want. However, I did run into a problem. I had to elevate them up off the floor for whatever reason. It took a little bit of shenanigans to get them to work, but you can also see up here I have this extra layer. Why? Well, even though it does cut into the efficiency, I really like how it looks on the mini-map. And it turns gray, actually. These blocks turn gray on the mini-map when you turn them into the Zycraft tanks, the multi-tanks. Yeah, so anyway, let's take a look inside. Not too much has changed. Not too much since last time. Still have a bunch of diamonds. However, I moved a stack of diamonds over for our new project, and I made a whole ton of diamond stuff. Look at that. I was having fun over at the spawn enchantment area. That is pretty great. I also have it, so I took out that tank that was over here because that thing was ugly and unsightly, and I have something else I want to put here. But I do have it so this coke oven is actually hooked up to a liquid tesseract that goes directly to the tank that is upstairs, which is, hey, why'd you do that, eh? Which is awesome. Now, before we get started with today's main project, there's something I really want to set up here before I forget, and since it takes a bit of time to cook up the things we need, let's get to that right away. So, first thing we're going to do is make this blast furnace. In order to do that, we need soul sand, nether brick, and then some magma cream. Well, I don't have any magma cream because I did not have very good luck finding those magma slimes, or whatever you call them, but that's fine. You can use some slime balls and some blaze powder, and I did get plenty of the blaze rods, which is nice. So, let's make some magma cream. I think we're going to need, what is it, probably 9? Actually, that's probably too many. Let's see. Actually, it might be just the right number. Okay, so this makes this thing called a blast furnace brick. It's a multi-block structure similar to the coke oven I have, except it's one block taller and it has a hollow part in the middle. So I think you're going to need about 36 of these total. Well, actually 34, but you don't use those last ones, so you kind of have 2 left over. Alright, let's go ahead and build this thing. I want to build it right over here because it seems like a good spot. So the first layer, just kind of set it down like that. These bricks do look pretty cool. Alright, then let's build around. Build around. I have a jetpack, I can fly. And then this top layer here. And hopefully that, oh, there we go, look at that. Blast furnace. Well, it still says blast furnace brick, but this whole thing, this multi-block structure, that is a blast furnace. Pretty cool. You know all that coal coke we've been getting? Well, we can use that to turn iron into steel. So let's take a stack of iron and a stack of this coal coke. I think you can use normal coal, but it takes like, wait, actually, maybe you can't use normal coal. Let me see here. I seem to recall that maybe only charcoal works. Yeah, you can't use normal coal. You have to use either coal coke or charcoal. So, no problem. I got plenty of each. It takes more charcoal in order to cook things up than it does the coal coke. So, yeah. Now, I think this ends up taking a bit of time. It's not exactly the fastest process in the world, but as you can see, it is turning my iron ingots into steel, which is great. We'll have some steel cooking in the background, and that'll be wonderful. Okay, cool. So we have that done. I'm just going to put this back in here. I'll tidy it up between episodes. I have been given so much thought on what to do next. There's either the AE stuff, which is applied energistics, even though all of the blocks tend to say ME, like ME interface and all that. Or there's building a boiler, and that'll give me just tons of power. However, I think I'm going to start with the ME stuff, or the Applied Energistics, mainly because by doing that, it'll allow me a good and easy way to store all of my items. Not only that, it'll make it easy to transport them from one place to the other. So that is just amazing. And for something that requires a constant input of items, such as the boiler, it's definitely a good idea. So let's go ahead and start with that. Enough lollygagging, huh? Okay, basics of ME. That is a very, very good question. So in order to start, we're going to probably want something called a quartz cutting knife. Now this just takes 2 sticks, 2 quartz crystals, and then some iron. Not too bad at all. In fact, a lot of the stuff in this isn't really that expensive in the big picture of things. It just requires a lot of this quartz and a lot of iron and a lot of building things. But eventually it'll get to the point where you can automate so much of it. So this quartz cutting knife, this allows you to make these things called, what is it? I don't think they're not circuits. Here, let me look it up really quick. Let's just go double click this, and it'll only show me the Applied Energistics stuff. And this stuff down here for some reason. Let's see. So with that, we can make, oh yeah, the processor, that's right. So there's a basic processor assembly, and these will be your best friend for building the early machines. Actually, a lot of stuff, really. In fact, these are some of the things here. I will probably get to some of the more advanced things later on, but I really want our initial project to be something very practical if you're just getting into Applied Energistics. Because, you know, you can look at all these computers and things and it makes you go, what? But let's make a chest that uses a hard drive or a storage drive instead of just a normal iron chest, let's say. And in order to do that, we're going to need this ME chest, which, you know, just needs a chest, some glass, and some iron. And then it also needs this conversion matrix, which for iron in the corners, 2 quartz, 2 redstone, and this basic processor, which you just have to smelt that basic processor assembly, which I was just showing you here. So let's go ahead and make this really quick. Now it does not consume the knife, but it does add a little bit of strain on its durability. There's another thing we're going to need to do. We're going to need to cook up some of this quartz dust, turn it into silicon, actually. And this is different than the silicon cells. This is just silicon. And with that, we can actually make that processor assembly. Now these are things you're going to want to make a lot of, so you know what, I'd better go ahead and grab a few of these here. Okay, let's put that there. Let's just go ahead and make what we can. Now, I'm going to probably take a break from cooking all this stuff up. Yeah, going a little slow, but that's fine. It's no big deal. Really, let's just get these cooking, because we have to cook those up once you're done. Pretty cool. And then we have some more silicon here. Now, additionally, I could make the advanced ones, and these are the same thing, except instead of gold, you use a diamond instead. Well, who's got diamonds? Yeah, I have some diamonds now, so we can easily make some of those. But I don't think we're going to need any unless we go up to the 16K storage, and I'm actually not opposed to that. So what are these different storage drives? Let's start with the most basic one here. Actually, hold on. I need to make that chest first. So we just need that basic processor and some things there. Let's go get it. What do you say? And while we're doing that, let's cook up the rest of that. Okay, so we got our basic processors. We got our cutting knife. Let's go ahead and put that thing there and take a look at this again. You're going to need to make a whole ton of these conversion matrices, or matrices, I guess is the plural. But you might not want to invest in plans, because eventually you will have this system able to craft it all automatically for you. That's the goal of this AE, which is awesome. Okay, now let's take this ME chest, which we just put that matrix there, chest, some iron, and some glass on top, and that gives us this chest. Cool! So, what do we do with this chest, huh? Well, it needs to be powered, and it needs to have a disk in it. I believe it can accept either MJ or EU. Or actually, I think it can even accept, what's the other one? UE? The universal energy, or whatever that is. It can accept a variety of things. So we'll see if this works, but we're going to need that disk. Now it can accept either the ME1K storage, the 16K storage, the 64K storage, this 4K storage, or actually I think that's it. Is there an 8K? I don't remember if there's an 8K or not, but regardless, these are those different storage drives. Now, you might want to go for the 64K thinking, oh yeah, it's the biggest one, you know, it'll be awesome, it's so great, but really it's not the most effective one at all unless you're storing extreme quantities of items, in which case you're better off using something called a deep storage unit. Ideally, you're going to want to shoot for either the 4K storage or the 16K storage. The 4K is probably the cheapest option for you, because it's going to require this storage segment, and then, you know, other miscellaneous things. I'm not going to count iron, redstone, or glass as overly important stuff. But you're going to need the storage segment, which is 3 of these storage cells, you know, some more redstone, and some the basic processor. And for these, you need basic processors and 4 of the quartz. So it's going to cost you about 12 or so quartz, actually even more if you factor this in. Actually, no, this doesn't really use it, other than silicon. So that doesn't require any diamonds. If you go for the 16K, you need this storage block, and that takes 3 of those storage segments plus the advanced processor. So it's kind of nice. It does give you a lot of storage, but as a general rule, it's cheaper and easier just to add more 4K storage things, or just to swap them around. When you see that 0 of 4096 bytes used, that's not actually how many items it can store. It can store much more than that. You can store many items inside of a single byte, so don't let that worry you. Really, the limiter is each one of these storage drives can only hold up to 63 unique types of items. And each unique type also adds a lot of, what do you call it? A lot of bytes to the requirement, or to the storage capacity. Alright, so I think I've yapped on long enough about that. Let's go ahead and let's start with a 4K drive. So we're going to need the storage segment, and we already have everything here except for these storage cells. So to make these, we just need 3 basic processors, because we're making 3 cells, and then 12 quartz, 12 redstone. So that's why I'm really glad I had all that redstone from earlier, huh? So let's do that. Actually, I guess it doesn't really matter. And then, is it the redstone in the corner? I don't even remember. Such a short-term memory sometimes. Storage cell. Yeah, that's right. And then the quartz right there. So we'll take 3 of these. Cool. And then we're going to put that inside of this, the 4K storage. So, actually, wait. I'm missing a step. We need the storage segment first. So that takes the 3 storage cells and 1 more of these. So I made just the right number. That's pretty cool. Alright, and then, ta-da! Storage segment. Quite a bit of crafting, huh? And last but not least, we just need a few more items here. Yeah, it burns through iron and redstone the most, not to mention quartz. But now we have this 4K storage. Now with this, we can put this in this chest, and ta-da! We now have a functional chest. Again, it requires power, so, you know, you need either the redstone energy cell, and as you can see, it's, you know, using up a bit of MJ per tick, but not really that much in the big picture of things. So this is something that will constantly require some power, but it's so worth it in the end. What do you do with this? Well, let me show you. Let's find an item. Let's take these saplings, for instance. Just go over here, and it functions like a chest. You can put items in it, and you can take items out. However, you're not limited to stacks of items. Instead, you have, say, 320 here. It actually shows you how many of the item you have. And it can store a lot. For instance, 320 of these spruce saplings, it only takes up 72 out of those 4,096 bytes. We can put more items in there, and see, now we're up to 145. What's really cool is now I can take the disk out, and I can take down the ME chest, and, let's go move it somewhere else. Somewhere else that has some power. In fact, let's move it right here, because I know there's some power here. Ta-da! Look, we've brought all of our items with. And if you want to shift them around, you can bring multiple disks too, which is just amazing. So this is really helpful for, say, quarries or just for general item storage. I know, you don't even have to play with anything else in here, which, let me tell you, would be a mistake, but you don't even have to do any of that just to have fun with these ME chests. They're awesome. But if you think that's awesome, you're really doing it wrong, because that's just the start of this AE stuff, my friend. So let's go ahead and make something else fun. Before we do that much in the way of expanding things, we're going to need this thing called an ME controller. This is basically like, the central computer for all of your ME stuff. And everything needs to be attached to this in order to be considered part of the network. So, for instance, we could have this ME chest as part of the network by hooking it up to the ME controller through these ME cables. I'll get to those cables in a second. Let's start with that controller. So we need one of those advanced processors now. So yeah, let's go ahead and make that. Just a diamond there. 2 redstone. Did I pick up the silicon? Yeah, I guess I did. Huh. It's in my inventory. Herp. Let's put that there. And put the cutting knife up on top. Let's go ahead and make a few of these, because I got plenty of diamonds, really. And it just, might as well get them cooking up. Alright, so we'll cook that up. And I need just one to start with. Let's see. Okay, so we got that. Now, let's go ahead and make that ME controller. Okay, more iron, more quartz, and we're set. Cool. We're also going to want to have some cables. And these are these ME cables. The recipe for these are quartz fiber and then 2 redstone. To make the quartz fiber, you just take 3 quartz dust and then make a sandwich with it. Put glass on top and on the bottom. That gets you 4 of these. So, it's kind of expensive for glass, but it's not really that big of a deal. Also, pro tip, do you want to know how to get a bunch of glass? Are you having problems getting glass? Well, there's a really cool way to get it, actually. I played around with this. You can actually pulverize cobblestone in order to get glass. Well, actually, you get sand by pulverizing the cobblestone. So I just put some cobblestone in here, sent it over to the powered furnace, and boom! There was glass. So that was just wonderful. That's a great way to do things. Ooh, let's take a look at the blast furnace. Nice! Alright, that's really cool. And it appears to be 1-for-1 coal, coke, and iron, so that's fine. That's fine. I should probably put in... I'm not going to need that much more. Eventually we'll get an industrial blast furnace, which will just totally replace that. But it's no big deal. Okay, so we have the controller. I was just about to make those ME cables, wasn't I? I don't think we need the quartz fiber for anything but those cables. But let me double check. Oh, right, a wireless receiver. That can be handy. But it's not a hassle to make these. I'm going to need more redstone, huh? Well, thank goodness I have a ton. Oh, yeah, that's so much redstone. I love it. I love it. All right, let's put that in there, and let's just make a whole bunch of those cables. All right, now we're good. So, let's use this redstone energy cell just because it's here, and, it's not really too much of a problem. Although, you know what? Kind of thinking maybe I should move it around. Nah, it's no big deal. Ah, darn it. It is a big deal. All right, let me get my conduits from... Oh, where did I put those things? I put them over here, huh? That's right. They're in this. Okay, there we go. Look at all this stuff. I'll leave those spruce things in there. Okay, let's tear this up. And let's go ahead and... What? I'm actually just going to take all this down. It's really no big deal. This chest shouldn't have anything in it but my processors. So, let's just set something basic up here. We'll use this energy cell just to kind of power everything. This is not ideal for a long-term strategy. I'm going to move this all around in a little bit, but I just want to kind of show you the basics. And let's put that ME controller there. So this little meter, that's sort of its internal power storage. And it's going to use 6 units per tick. This doesn't mean 6 of this MJ per tick or 6 EU per tick. There's like a conversion. It uses its own form of electricity, essentially. So, just kind of keep that in mind. Now, let's go ahead and put this chest over here. We're going to link it up with... Actually, you know what? Rather than put it over there... yeah, that's fine. Alright, see? All hooked up. Now, cool thing is, you don't need to now supply power to the chest. You don't need to do that separately. This ME cable will supply all the power you need, as long as it's hooked up to this ME controller. You can see on here now it's up to using 9 units per tick, so it is draining this much faster. I mean, it will still last, I'm sure, for the episode. But, you want to make sure you have an okay power supply set up before you're doing this. And that's why I'm really excited to get that boiler stuff going. Oh, man. All right, so look, we got the chest online. We got all this. That's so cool, right? Right. Well, chests aren't really the most efficient way to store things in this. If you're used to having a whole bunch of chests, well, that works all right. But instead of doing that, how about we make something called a disk drive? Or rather just a drive, ME drive. Takes 2 of those basic processors, 4 iron ingots, some glass, and a chest. So we need to make a few more of those basic processors. So let's go ahead and do that. And let's put the knife there. I'm going to need a few. Let's just make as many as we can. Alright, 8's a good number. Going to need some more redstone, huh? Alright, well, where did I put that powered furnace? Oh, no big deal. Let's put it... Ooh, actually, we can do something kind of fun with this. Let's put it right there. Cook that up. It's not going anywhere just yet, but that's fine. Let me get some redstone. See, it eats the redstone for breakfast. Might not look expensive, but it adds up. Alright, well, we have enough to kind of do what we needed to do with it. So let's go ahead, and I think it was 2 there. A chest, 2 glass, and some iron. Darn it. There we go. And now we have an ME drive. So this is super cool. You're definitely going to want to have these. So these storage disks, right? Super neat, right? Right? Works great with the chest. Well, just watch. Let's take that chest down. And instead, let's hook up a drive. Actually, we can hook up a drive pretty much wherever. I'm going to hook the drive up there, and I'm going to hook the chest up right there. Okay, so this drive, it has 10 slots. No, you can't put items in there. You specifically put those storage things in there. And then you can see a little indicator there. If it's green, it means that there's plenty of room in it. If it's orange, it means a little cramped. You might want to do something about it. And if it's red, it won't store anything more. But remember, that's for each drive. Each drive has its separate storage and stuff. Now that's all considered connected on the network. Now it's increased the energy use to 10 of those units per tick. No problem, really. But how do I get to those items, right? You're thinking, oh, but I can't use the chest now. That kind of stinks. How do I get to those things? Well, we have to make something else super cool. We need to make this access terminal. And in order to make that, we need another one of those conversion matrices, or matrices. 3 glass, 4 iron, yeah, you know, that whole thingy. So let's go ahead and make that up. Now that we've got some stuff, we need the conversion matrix. No problem at all. go. So looking forward to being able to craft this soon. You're going to love this if you haven't a clue what's about to happen. Alright, so we got to convert. You know, I'm going to make like 3 of these. I have a feeling I might need some more pretty soon. Okay, so we've got those. Now we just need to make the access terminal. So I've already got the cable here. Let's put that, boom, 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 and some glass, and that gives us this access terminal. Let's hook that up right here. So this thing is pretty cool, right? You click that, and look, it shows the spruce sapling all the way from over here. Yep, it picks it up. So if you had 2 disks in this drive, you would be able to look through all of those items. And not only that, but you can type in an item, and you can deposit items straight from this terminal. You don't even have to go into that disk drive. You can just deposit things right there. Let's say I'm looking for slime. You can just type it, and boom, you'll find your slime balls. You can sort by stuff, like by name. You can choose a sort order. You can view stored items, craftable items, or both stored and craftable. Now, craftable isn't going to make too much sense to you right now until we start going into the more advanced stuff, where we can actually use this to craft things, oops, on the fly. I keep wanting to press E while I'm in there to get out of it, but you have to press escape. Otherwise, you're going to be searching for E. So that always throws me off every single time. Now, another really cool thing is, let's say I had a disk drive in this chest. Well, this would pick up on it. In fact, let me just show you that really quick. Let's make that. So we need to have a new disk. And you know what? I'm gonna make a 16K really quick. It's pretty much just a storage block. Actually, no, I'm just gonna make a 4K. It's no problem. I'll make 16Ks in a moment. So I'm just gonna recraft this. I will see you in a sec. Alright, got my second 4K storage, so let's go ahead and put that right in the ME chest, okay? So we have the one drive in here, and that has like the spruce saplings and stuff, and let's just go ahead and find, let's put some of this charcoal in here. In fact, I can go ahead and just go to town. Alright, let's dump that into this other one. Boom, 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 look at it all. Oh my goodness, so much charcoal. It's awesome. Okay, so I have about 1,600 charcoal in the ME chest, okay? And that's not in here. But if you go to the access terminal, it shows up in there. That's really neat if you like to compartmentalize things. Like if you want to have certain areas here, have certain stuff, and just be able to access it from more of a chest interface. I mean, you know, it's pretty much the same amount of storage. You just have more storage for a single block if you use these disk drives. But you can feel free to hook everything up to these ME chests. It's just going to cost you more power. But that's another cool way of doing it if you're interested. And I love how it interacts together. Ew, I do that all the time because I want to go forward. I was like, cancel, go forward. Yeah, so super nifty with those drives. But as you can see, once you have everything set up, pretty much don't even need these chests anymore because you can just use this terminal to get everything you need, which is awesome. Let's see, what else on our list? Okay, I got a really cool one. Let's do this crafting terminal. So this is not super duper expensive, but a bit. You have to make another access terminal. Plus you have to make, where did it go? No, not that one. Crafting terminal. You need to make another storage cell. That's no problem, but let's just go ahead and do that. Okay, so for the storage cell, let's do... I don't remember if the redstone's on the corners or what. Alright. Nice. Okay, now we have a storage cell. Great. But what do we do with it from here? Well, actually, I think I need to make that crafting thing first, right? Yeah, let's make this access terminal. So, conversion matrix. Wait, did I? Yes, I already made it. I'm so smart. All right. So we need the ME cable thing. Where do they all go? Oh, did I put them in my network? I did. Oh, Devin, why did you do that? Okay, let's go ahead and put that there. I think it was what? 3 glass and then... Yeah. Okay, so we have that. Let's do that with the storage cell. And a crafting table of all things. I'll get that in a sec. And some glass. So, no problem. Let me get crafting table and some glass. Before long, it'll all be in my system, huh? Yeah, I won't even need to worry about that. It's like, oh, I just need to look. Okay, crafting terminal. So let's hook this thing up. Again, this is going to look really ugly. I'm going to be relocating all this, so don't worry. I'm just trying to show you all the stuff here. Now, this works very similarly. It is attached to your network here. In fact, hold on, let me see where we're at. Ooh, it's draining kind of fast. What did I place? Oh, there it is. Let me get rid of this thing. Alright, what are we at power-wise? 13 units. So, you know, we're going to have to hook it up to something. But the difference between this terminal and this crafting terminal is this works as a crafting table as well. It's awesome. Let's go ahead and find something to craft. I don't even know what. Oh, I know what. Let's go ahead and move some of the stuff we've had in here. Let's move it inside of the thingy. Since I'm not using plans or anything, that should be fine. Okay, we're going to just put it all into the network. I held space to do that, which actually worked. Alright, so that's all in there. And now we can craft things straight from here. We don't even have to use that project table, which is great. In fact, let's make something else. It's the ME import bus and the ME export bus. So these basically allow you to take items into the system from certain blocks or to export items from the system into certain blocks. Those are these things right here. And there's also these storage buses and interfaces, ME interfaces. And I'll play around with those in a sec, but let's see. So we're going to need this ME interface thing. First of all, the export bus takes things out of the network and puts it into whatever block it is touching. Whereas the import bus takes things out of a block and into the network. It imports it into the ME network. So let's start with this export bus. Actually, no, wait. We want the import bus. The reason for that is we're going to hook that up to the powered furnace that's right there, which is pretty neat. So we're going to need this ME interface and a sticky piston. So we need another one of those conversion matrices, and yeah, that whole thing. Pretty simple recipe. Now the only downside to this crafting terminal is you can't use the thing to look recipes up. So whatever you're trying to look up, if you have something on the side over there, make sure you type it out ahead of time because you can't just type anything here, which is a rather, it's an inconvenience. So let's do that. You also can't use the question mark, which for whatever reason, I love having that, so that's a downside. It's not really that way of doing things. They have a much more efficient way once you get more advanced with this, but just keep that in mind. Okay, and then... oh, it's the iron on the corners. Okay. No problem. It's an easy fix. And then what? Glass here? Yep, now we have this ME interface. And this thing actually, it can be used to do some stuff too. I'll be honest, I haven't played around with these before, but I know they work with things. I think you need to have these patterns encoded on them first, though. You can't just use them normally. I may be incorrect, but I don't think I'm going to play around with that just yet because, I don't know. I'm just not going to. You know what? I'm going to need another one of those conversion matrix thingies. So let's go ahead and make that. Ta-da! Okay, we'll do that. Let's go ahead and make the, what am I trying to make? I'm trying to make another one of those interfaces. So 3 glass, cable, 4 iron. Alright, got the interface. So that should be our second interface. That'll give us enough for 1 import bus and 1 export bus. Cool, we'll just start with that. So for the import bus, we're going to need that, and what else was it? It was 2 iron and then a piston. Now the piston is a normal piston if it's an export bus because it's pushing it out, and it's a sticky piston if it's an import bus. So we're going to need to make a sticky piston really quick, but I do have some pistons. As you can see here, let's start with 1 export bus, borrow a slime ball really quick to turn this into a sticky piston, and then that will give us the import bus. Nice. Alright, so let's hook this up. What do you say? So if we put items into this powered furnace, let's say, we want them to go directly into the network. So to do that, we just have to hook up this import bus because that imports things into the network. See how it's kind of branching out from there? Well, you can use something like a crescent hammer to move that around. And you need this end right here hooked up to whatever side the item outputs on. And then that will place it into the network automatically, which is just amazingly cool. What do we need to cook up? Let's go ahead and make some more of these basic processors. What do you say? Actually, we're going to need more silicon. So let's do this. We'll take half a stack, put it in there, and watch. It's not going to appear in here. Or maybe it is. Do I have it on the right thing? Oh, there we go. Always active. That's right. Okay, so these don't just take everything out of them. I think you have to actually set things in there. Oh, did that work? It's been a while, I'll be honest. Okay. Okay, there we go. I think. Yeah, okay, so for whatever reason, it just did not seem to be playing very nicely with the powered furnace. I think I need to use those ME interfaces for that. So I just had it output to the chest and then use the import bus here. In fact, actually, you don't have to filter the item specifically. It will, by default, pick everything from whatever it's attached to up. You can, however, choose to filter certain items. So, for instance, I can put all these in here and it's not going to pick them up. If I put the quartz dust in and then put this here, it will then take all the quartz dust out of the network. You can also press this button to move stacks of items at a time, which makes it go much faster. It uses up more power to do so, though. Using that up does consume power, so just kind of keep that in mind. Okay, well that seems to work more or less, which is just fine. That's what I wanted. The export bus works kind of similarly. It takes things out of the network, and it's best used as something called a level emitter, which is pretty handy. Let me show you how this will work, because this is what I'm going to use to feed stuff into my boiler, which is going to use this steel I'm getting. Looking very forward to that. Alright, let's do... how are we going to do this? What's a good example? So we want to export things out of the network and into something else. So, in fact, what we can do is... Oh, actually, I have everything hooked up. Well, let's just hook that up there. Oop, nope, not that one. I want my export bus. So we'll do that there, and then we'll hook it up there. And I need to turn this blue. There we go. Okay, so that will then do some stuff, which is nice. Let's go ahead and what would be a good thing to get? How about let's make some refined iron. It's always a good thing. Let's take 2 stacks. I'm going to need this before too long anyhow. Okay, so in the access terminal, let's go ahead and put almost all of our iron in there. I'm going to save 1 iron just because we're going to need it to filter right here. So right-click this and then set whatever item you want to export from the system. Now with this, you do need to set specifically what you're exporting, because otherwise it's not going to try to export your entire system. That'd be a little silly now, wouldn't it? Also, really important with either of these things, you can set if it's always active, if it's active without a signal, if it's active with a signal. This is redstone, just in case it wasn't clear, or once per pulse if you're using something like a timer or stuff like that. I'm just having it always active by default, but before long, when we use something called a level emitter, we're going to want to change that to react according to the signal. Yeah, I know. It's like, what? So, look at what's going on. I didn't put any refined iron in there. It's doing it automatically. Why is that? Well, because of this export bus. The export bus takes any of your, well, whatever you specify in here, it takes it out of the system and then tries to put it inside of that inventory spot for the output thing. And since it's now outputting over to this chest, which is absorbing it thanks to this import bus, sending it back into the system, so it just goes right in here automatically. I love it. So cool. So we're cooking up refined iron and it's going right back into the system. That's what this dinky little setup here. This is a very temporary setup. I'm just kind of trying to show you stuff. Now, I don't want it to cook up all of my iron, let's say. I mean, if I threw all the iron I owned into here, you know, I wouldn't want to cook it all up because that would be very wasteful. So you just need something called an ME level emitter. And it's pretty simple to make. Just a basic processor, some iron, a cable, and a redstone torch. This really helps. So we have this. Oh, did I forget it already? I think I remember it. Oh, I need the redstone torch. Alright, let me make that really quick here. Just because I see a stick there. Cool. Okay, redstone torch, that, and the cable. No. No. What am I forgetting? Redstone? Oh my goodness, I'm so derpy tonight. Let's try this again. Oh, iron, okay. Alright, now we got the level emitter. So what on earth does this thing do, huh? Well, first of all, you need to make sure that it is hooked up to a network. You need to have it attached to something that's part of the network. Then this will send a signal. See, it's like a redstone torch. See that? And right now it's sending a redstone signal. And you need to put an item in here. This is kind of like a filter for it. So in this case, it will emit a redstone signal when there is more than 128 or whatever number we want. Let's say more than 90. It will emit a redstone signal. Well, guess what? We only have 70 in there. So it's not emitting a signal. And with this, let's go ahead and say active with signal. So that means it will only emit a signal when there are more than 90 iron ingots in the system here and everything attached to your ME network. It will only emit a signal then. So, I mean, this is all still cooking, but if I took that out, for instance, and actually this is going to be fun because it's going to bring me back to the limit. Let's put that there and watch. The signal turns on. So, guess what? It's exporting it again because you told it to. But let's go ahead and set it to 150 now. Well, now it turned off because, you know, we did that. You can also reverse this if you want. You can say this should be emit when levels are below limit. So if I have less than 150, it's on. You can basically use whatever logic you want. You can change this if you'd like. Active without signal. So in this case it's active or just active with. But these level emitters are super handy if you want to make sure that you're not using up all of your stuff. So I always want to make sure I have about 1,000. So I would do emit when levels are below. No, actually, let's see. Emit when levels are above the limit. And then this one is active only with the signal. So this will only process things if I have more than 1,000 iron in the system. In fact, we should be able to see an example. How much iron do I have over here? Oh, you got to be kidding me, right? Let's take it all and put it over here. Okay, I think I'll have enough. So this should leave me with more or less 1,000. Actually, you know what? Before I do that, remember, if I put 64 in at a time, it's going to try to take out 64. So if you wanted exactly 1,000, remember, it's not going to realize that until... Actually, maybe it will. I don't know. Let's see. I guess it's at that point in the export. So, see, it's draining. Let's see if it stops at 1,000. Nope. But close enough. Close enough. It was just kind of in transit. So, you know, it doesn't have to be super precise. I'm sure there are ways you can make it even more precise, but this just gives you an idea. And you can do that too if you need certain resources. Like I could have this in reverse. I could have it so if I have less than, say, 200 refined iron, then I cook up whatever iron I have. And I think you could, say, have one level emitter here, so you're giving it two different conditions it needs to check. Yeah, super awesome, huh? I love this. It's so much fun. So with this, you can now basically store whatever items you want. The 16K drives are probably your most cost-efficient bet. They're expensive. Early on, you might as well go with the 4K. Another really cool thing you can do, let me take this, do I have, all right, one item in here. This is pretty nice, actually. So let's take, oh, darn it, all that coal. Well, that's fine. Let's take everything out of this drive. And... I don't want to put it back in the system, darn it. That's the problem. There is a way I can set a priority. I just don't remember what it is. Oh, well, it's no problem. Let's see if that puts it back in here. Yes, it does. Oh, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to toss it. Okay, so we have everything cleared out of this drive. That is cool. Let's go ahead and take the drive. And I guess now we can put everything, all this charcoal in the system. Okay, so again, oops, part of the reason it is better to use the smaller drives is, I think, how does this work? I think if you hold shift, yeah, if you hold shift and right click one of your drives, you will get back whatever storage item you had in there. Plus you'll have this storage cell housing thing. And you can craft that together with another storage segment or storage block or storage cluster in order to get that storage thing back. So, for instance, I could take the storage segment now, which is what you use in the 4K storage, that's right here, and if I wanted to upgrade to a 16K, I would need the storage block, which consists of 3 of those storage segments. So I only need to make 2 more now, rather than having to go back and, you know, just have the 4K sit there for all eternity. Very helpful if you're trying to optimize your storage or just kind of upgrade. So don't worry about the 64K. A lot of people make that mistake. It's like, oh yeah, bigger is better. But really, until you get doing a lot of stuff, the 4K is more than fine. Now there's one final item I'm going to show you, and this isn't from AE actually, Applied Energistics. This is from something called MineFactory Reloaded, which I really think is a pretty cool mod. It's called this deep storage unit, and this thing is amazing. It needs plastic sheets, ender pearls, Eye of Ender, so 5 ender pearls total, and this factory machine block. So to get the plastic sheets, you just need 4 raw plastic, and that gets you 4 plastic sheets. And to make that, you just smelt rubber. No big deal at all. We can do that right away. What about this factory machine block? It's just more of these plastic sheets plus some stone, some smooth stone. And that gets you, actually it gets you 4 deep storage units, which is pretty nice. It's a heck of a deal. The recipe does get a bit more expensive later in later versions. I'm again playing on 1.4.7. It's on Feed the Beast Ultimate 1.12, so if you're playing on a newer version like that, I apologize. A lot of these recipes may have changed. I know we're right towards the end of the cycle, so that's why. So let's go ahead and make this thing, huh? We're going to need some rubber, which I happen to have all the way over here. Let me just get some of this. We'll take a stack's worth, smelt it all up. In fact, we can even put it in... let's just put it in here. I think... double check this import bus. I think it's importing... yeah, it's importing everything. So before long, we should get some rubber in the system, or raw plastic, rather. And from this, we just need to make some of those plastic sheets. Alright, there we go. Plastic sheets. Got 4 of those. Now, we need the factory block. So, let's get some smooth stone. There we go. Factory machine block. Nifty. And we're going to need some more of those plastic sheets. Put that away. Get 4 of these. Put that in there. See, crafting on this crafting terminal is pretty nice. Eventually, and this I'm not doing this episode. Maybe next time. Maybe I'll set up the boiler first. I don't know. I'll probably do the boiler first because this is set up enough. But I'll be able to make automatic crafting with this, which is just amazing. I'll just even show you really quick what is involved in that. I don't even know. I haven't done this personally myself on my single player, so we'll probably learn it together. But you need, let's see, pattern encoders to encode patterns onto blank pattern disk things or somewhere. I don't know where it is. Oh, there it is. It's blank pattern. And that basically is kind of like plans, except for the AE system, or the ME system, as the system itself is called. Oh, these storage buses. I totally forgot to show you those. Well, another time. Actually, no. These work very well with the deep storage, so I'll show you that too. But getting back on track, you need these crafting CPUs, and those basically affect how quickly you can craft things automatically. You need several of these heat vents, and you need these container walls, which those are really expensive, I think. I don't really know exactly how you set that up. I'll have to do a little bit of looking into it, but once it's set up, it lets you auto-craft from your ME system, which is just so cool. It's just amazing, and I'm looking forward to doing that. I just don't have the time in this episode. Okay, so last but not least, let's see. We have, did we get the deep storage units? I don't remember. Did I? Wait, where are they? Did I not get them? Oh, right. I needed the ender stuff. Okay, cool. No problem. I got some of that. Let's go ahead and take these pearls. Do I have the... yeah, I have that there. Oh, darn it. You know what? I'm going to just do it this way. Oops. Wrong button. Alright, let's make 2 of these. Boom, boom. Yeah, deep storage unit. Okay, and while we're here, these work amazingly well with these storage buses. So we just need another one of these interfaces. Let's do that. What is it? 4 iron and 3 glass, I think. Yep. And then we just need the ME cable. And what was it? Some iron? Yes. So cool. Okay, so these storage buses basically let you hook up any storage item into the ME network here, and then it is like you can detect anything from it. So for instance, let's go ahead and, again, this is super duper cluttered, but that's not really a big deal. Let's put this deep storage unit here. Now these you can choose what each direction is inputting or outputting. You can have everything go in or have everything go out. It doesn't automatically output, but if you had like pipes or something, you could do that normally, or you could do that with the system. So let's hook the storage bus up to it. You can just put that right there. A little hard to get into that thing, that's no big deal. So let's take something we have an obscene amount of, like, well, I want to say cobblestone, but it's sad. I actually have more charcoal than I do cobblestone. Let's go ahead and put that in. So how this works is it has these two up top, which kind of indicate, oh, that's your in. These items will be accepted in there. And then you have this sort of as a buffer for anything going out. You can change the direction of this to have things go out in different directions. I think I don't know if I wanted in or out for up. I think it'll connect to either. But the storage bus here, that lets me pick it up in the system right here, which is really cool. Really cool indeed. So how much can this store? This little deep storage unit? It can store up to 2 billion of an item. So yeah, rather than, you know, have really large storage drives for storing cobblestone and stuff, for things you're going to be quarrying like dirt, like cobblestone, like sand, gravel, you know, all that kind of stuff, you can just set up dedicated deep storage units with storage buses on them. And, you know, you don't even have to worry about voiding it. You can just keep millions of cobblestone if you want. And, you know, you can do stuff with it later. But I always prefer doing that than just voiding it away, because it's so cheap. It does get more expensive in the newer versions, but not that bad. I think you'd need like an item tesseract or something. So it's not that bad. But yeah, I think we've covered just about everything we need to today for this AE system, the ME system. I don't know if it's AE system or ME system. I know the mod itself is called AE, but all of the stuff here is for ME. And I'll be honest, I don't even know what that stands for, the ME. I know AE is Applied Energistics, which sounds cool. Yeah, but I think we've done all we need to do with that for today. So let's go ahead and end the episode by looking at all this steel we're making. That is cool. Oh yeah. Anyway, I will see you on the next episode of Marriland's Hermitcraft Feed the Beast Adventure. See you next time, computers.